Awesome to have you here, Daniela, first and foremost. I mean, I've lost track of the amount of notes I've made there, to be honest. I'm trying to figure out where to dig into first, and obviously we'll ask some audience questions very, very shortly as well. In terms of, obviously you work with clients as a coach, right? So aside from everything else that you do, you must be a big, very, very busy person, by the sound of things, with a few different skill sets. Is there any kind of, tying into the first picture that you posted there on the presentation almost, do you notice any patterns in your clients, or whether they're lifestyle patterns or personality, well obviously personality patterns, but any particular patterns in amongst them?
Yes, there are some. Is this the one that's working? Yeah. Actually, many of them come to coach because they want to go back to school. Like they started something, they just left it for different reasons, and they want to finish either their career, their master's, or whatever, something. Also because they want to finish something they started, and they fear that on their own they just might get bored, and just leave it aside, and they need someone to be accountable for them. And then there's people that comes because they want tools to improve their time management, or how to organize their agendas better, like to work better in general. Yeah.
So this will come to you with a brief and say, right, this is what I want to achieve. Can you help me do it?
Yeah. Usually they're quite ambitious. They bring you a list of all the things they want to work, and I, as a coach, I need to narrow it down. Like, let's start with one thing, But it is true that when you start with one, usually, like for example, improving your organizing skill, that usually affects positively other executive functions. Like that's one of the things that I did. Like there were buckets. The image was a lot of buckets, and there was something that connected them all because they're related to one another. So maybe you start working on your concentration through meditation, and then you see that your impulsivity also gets better.
I was going to say, is that one of the number one ways that you train someone's executive function, essentially? Do you use things like meditation and wellness techniques in that sense?
Yes, not everyone is interested or up to it, but it is one of the ones that works better. Like, it doesn't have to be meditation, like sitting, for 20 minutes, but it can be any kind of mindfulness exercise. It can be just conscious breathing for 2 minutes, like setting a few alarms during the day. And that has an impact in your capacity to concentrate, in your impulsivity, and of course in your emotional regulation. Yeah.
And so things like meditation, breath work, is there anything else that may not be on people's radars that are helpful?
Yeah, anything that involves moving the body. Not everyone likes dancing, but maybe doing just some stretches, or maybe some yoga stretches along the day, or when you wake up. But usually all are, we know already, and we've done a lot of events about the neurology, and all these emotions get stored in the body. So moving a bit is moving, whatever way, helps us also with improve concentration, improve the way we feel. And one of the things that I did not mention, but we need to feel better. We need to feel good we need positive emotions to motivate ourselves. Yeah, that's why I said if we are starting from negative dialogue, it is very difficult that we get started on things. Maybe out of shame, but that does not always work.
That's a good point. What do you think are the best ways to sort of line up interest and motivation as well? What are the sort of easiest hacks maybe, but some of the core hacks to doing that?
Well, the one that I mentioned is like having an accountability partner. Why? Because if we struggle with self-regulation, just saying, okay, I will do it. I will go to the gym 3 times a day, or I will meditate every morning. And it's just up to you. Okay, maybe you. I'm not saying it's not impossible, and maybe you are someone who's very persistent. But usually, as I said, we know our levels of interest are very unstable. So having someone who either does it with you or reminds you to. I had a friend. We did our training together, and she had trouble going to the gym. I don't know. It's not that I only coach people who want to go to the gym, but this is one of the easiest examples. And she did this thing called Coaching Body, in which she connected every morning at 7 a.m. through Google Meet with 2 other friends, while their friends were getting ready to work, just for her to be motivated enough to put her gym clothes on, her shoes, and to walk out of the. Yeah, so there's a lot of this either finding a body double. This is something that we do a lot. Even going to a co-working, even if seeing people working motivates you to work. You know, it's like some kind of strange magic thing, but it works.
I feel like I'm the opposite when I go to a co-working space. I get too distracted.
That's that's the other side. No, sometimes our nervous system is hyper aroused by by smells, by things that happen in the environment. But it's because we capture so much information at a time. Like, I don't know, if you're ADHD, do the experiment. But like, enter a restaurant, and you will be able to feel at the same time the texture of the floor, the temperature of the room, how many people are sitting there, the smells that comes from the kitchen, and pick up on 3 or 4 conversations at the same time. That's how our brains are wired, to capture a lot of information at the same time. So that makes us become overwhelmed when we're in these environments very easily.
It ties into what you were saying around the evolutionary bit, I think, before, and I guess I've never really thought of it in those terms. You know, what do you think we were doing back in the evolutionary process before everything? We were the watch keepers.
We were creating the system. We're helping people be alive, just by putting attention to everything that was happening, and also identifying opportunities. Not only challenges or things to be careful of, but also opportunities to find places to live, or I don't know. These are all theories, but it kind of makes sense.
And tying into modern day, do you see, again, talking about patterns, do you see any patterns in sort of high-achieving people with ADHD and what they do for a living?
Yeah, if you search it up, you will find people who are, they have done very well in life. I'm not only talking about being wealthy or being the CEO of, but people who have been able to build interesting things, and to maybe from a very difficult starting, and what you see there is that there was a driver that kept them motivated for a long period of time. Usually, I did not say it there, but doing things for others, being of service, it's also a great motivator, because there's something about injustice, social injustice, that usually we are very sensible to.
And I guess that ties into the accountability thing as well. You're making yourself accountable to someone else for something in a different kind of way.
Yes, absolutely, for sure.
Just a kind of something that I thought while she was speaking as well, and without treatment, can ADHD worsen over time, or is it something that can kind of stay flat?
I would say because I have read about it. For example, Dr. Russell Barkley, who's not ADHD, but his twin brother was, and he's written many books and done many research. He says that it does get worse. with time. And untreated ADHD, people who have untreated ADHD, their life expectancy is like 10 years
Oh wow,
lower
really?
than the rest of the population, because they're more impulsive. They get in traffic accident, car accident, or
Self-medication as well, right?
self-medication as well. Yeah. So I mean, I know there's a lot of discussion on, but why do you need a diagnosis? Why do you need the label? No, and it's not so much about the label. It's about it explains things to you. It gives you information about yourself. That why did I make those decisions? Why I was, I don't know, so dumb when I was, I don't know, 25. Well, now there is a reason. It helps you understand. Or why was I driven toward so and so? So it gives you very relevant information about yourself, and now and it also helps you now make more choices from a place of more awareness, not so much from impulsivity.
Thank you.